Let's talk about that money, baby. Well, hello everybody. Anthony here. Welcome back to another wealthy episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. Very excited about today's episode. We have a fantastic guest joining us here in just a couple of minutes. Little while ago, earlier this year, I shared with you all the fact that I have stepped into a new business venture myself. I work with the finance firm. I specifically work with them to help bring in potential new agents who want to start an exciting career in finance themselves, as well as help match up our current agents with potential clients. And in that business, I get to work with a lot of tremendous people, but one person in particular that I want to introduce you here on the show today is my business partner, Heather Johnson. Heather's great because she loves sitting down with folks, getting into the X's and the O's and the math and the numbers and all the spreadsheet and data stuff when it comes to finance and helping people achieve their financial goals. She loves all that stuff. I love yapping. I love talking to people. I love connecting people with Heather. And she loves sitting down with people and doing all the brainy, smart stuff. She's a genius. She's a rock star. She's killing it at our firm. So I just thought it would be pretty cool to have her on the show today so we could spend some time picking the brain of a financial strategist. Like for us as single parents in particular, what are some things we can be thinking through and doing to set our families up for success? Because I know for a lot of us, we often feel like we're just barely surviving when it comes to money, right? Barely surviving when it comes to paying the bills and raising the kids and all these different things. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but most Americans, single parents or not, if something were to happen unexpectedly, like their washer or dryer break, a majority of them couldn't replace that appliance without doing something like putting it on a credit card and getting in more debt. That's just the reality for a lot of people. So I thought, how great would it be to sit down with Heather to dive into what we can do as families to not just survive financially, but to hopefully thrive and establish just a real legacy of financial wealth in our homes going forward. So that's the game plan. We're going to go hang out with Heather here in just a moment, but a few things I would love to ask you to do before we get into that. Good. If you like the podcast and you want more, you can't get enough, first thing that you can do is just hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on notifications on whatever platform you're listening to this show on. That way you never miss an episode in the future. Second thing that you could do is just share the podcast, especially an episode like this. We're talking about something so universal as money. Like, we all got to deal with it. We all got to manage it. We're all figuring it out on one level or another. So how great would it be for you to share this podcast with a friend, with a family member, with a neighbor, with somebody who could definitely use this information? And then third things third, only do this if you think the show is worthy of it, if you think the show's legit. But what you could do is just rate the podcast 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite podcast hosting platform. That way we can tell those algorithms out there that the show's legit, and it'll pass it along to more people. All right, we're going to go hang out with Heather, but I want to say this early on. I think we say this later in our conversation, but if you'd like to get a hold of Heather, you like what you're hearing, you want to set up just an appointment to sit down and talk with her about your financial status, all the contact info, all the emails are going to be in the description of this video, so you could just scroll down a little bit, and we would love to connect you with Heather. But I think you need to meet her first. You need to hear from her first, I think. So let's go do that right now. Did you know that at Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development, not only are we recruiting the next top talent in the financial service industry to come in, get licensed and trained to help a lot of people and make a pretty good living doing it, we also connect individuals and families with licensed financial strategists who love nothing more than sitting down with people and helping them accomplish and succeed in their financial goals and dreams. Thinking about retirement? Do you think it's possible you could leave generational wealth to your children? Speaking of your children, do you know if they're properly protected if something unfortunate were to happen to you? Single parents out there, where are your kids gonna go? Who are they gonna be placed with if something dire does come your way? We sit down, we help break it all down, we come up with solutions that are best for you and your family. And the amazing part about this whole thing, our appointments are 100% free. Yep, all you gotta do is get in touch with us and we'll put you in contact with the financial strategist who will make sure that everything is properly planned out for your financial future for free. We also have an amazing referral program for professionals and business owners who might be looking to add an additional revenue stream to their portfolio. Yes, we're talking about real estate agents, mortgage brokers, property managers, CPAs, and tax professionals. This might be an easy way for you to add additional revenue to your business model. Reach out to us one more time. That's Anthony Crosby, Talent Acquisition and Development, where change starts now. All right, everybody, here we are with Heather Johnson, my friend, my partner in business. She's legit. She's amazing. I'm so excited for you all to hang out with her for the next however long this episode is. But if you're watching the video version of the show, you can see we have her here in all of her glory. Heather, how is it going today?
Good. How are you doing, Anthony?
I am feeling pretty good because I have like a big, large coffee right here, and that caffeine is hitting me. I was feeling a lull right before I set all this stuff up for the episode, but now the caffeine's caffeining right now.
Yeah. Well, I caffeined all morning, and so I figured green tea was a little less caffeine than this morning.
That's why. Okay. I thought like you were trying to be like super healthy and legit, and here I have my sugary mocha over here. So I was like, dang it.
I don't do much with sugar, but
Yeah, I shouldn't.
yeah.
I shouldn't. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. As I kind of let the people know, you are a rockstar licensed financial strategist, and we're going to talk about all things finance today on the show. In particular, when it comes to helping single parents or just anybody watching this episode in general or listening to it, go from surviving financially, like just making it or barely making it week in and week out, to taking some real steps to practically thrive when it comes to finances, to achieve some goals, to set you and your family up for success. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But before we do get into all the X's and O's, I just want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, a little bit about your story, how you got into finance in the first place, because I know your story, I think it's going to encourage a lot of people, especially educators. So, but I don't want to spoil anything. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about you?
All right. Well, I've been in education for 12 years. Well, I've been teaching for 12 years. I teach fifth graders. I teach ELA, which is English Language Arts, as well as social studies. I do enjoy teaching fifth graders because they're 10 and 11 and they still like me.
Yeah. I think my daughter's almost 10. I think she still likes me, so that tracks.
No, at some point in that age group, they start to have the hormones going and things change a little bit. But yeah, so I've been teaching for 12 years.
Okay.
And I knew some time ago that I didn't want to continue teaching fifth grade, but I've always liked the education portion of my job.
Okay.
So I went back to school and I got my accounting degree. I think I've been going to school ever since I started going back to school out of high school.
Okay.
I got my teaching degree. I got my master's in teaching in curriculum and instruction. And then I decided that it wasn't the field that I wanted to. So then I got my bachelor's in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like playing with numbers and doing those things, but leaving teaching scared me a little bit.
Sure.
Because I knew I was going to have to start at the bottom and work my way up. As an educator, it probably wouldn't have taken too much time to surpass that.
Sure.
But still taking that, that loss and the dip in income, I didn't want to have to do that. So I just kept teaching, and I do enjoy teaching my my students. And last year, I came across a Facebook post that Matthew's wife, one of our trainers, had posted about the opportunity for a financial strategist training. So I reached out to her and sat down with Matthew, and he shared some information with me, and I learned really quick that it's all about financial education and teaching adults instead of necessarily, fifth graders, but I'm still educating.
Sure.
I'm just, educating adults on different things besides, besides just teaching their kids.
Sure. Yeah. So you still get to, at the core, do what you love, which is education, but you're just applying it to another demographic of people, right?
Right. Instead of teaching ELA and social studies, I'm teaching finance to their parents. So, yeah.
Yeah. Which is really important and huge, because I don't think I fully realized or recognized until I stepped into this business as well, just how little the everyday person has access to financial education or things that they, even options when it comes to what they can do with their money. It was really humbling for me to see that a lot of the stuff that you in particular sit down and help people work out are things and tricks and strategies that a lot of wealthy people have the access to sit down with somebody and implement. Like maybe their family can afford a $200 or more an hour session with a financial advisor, so they can learn about a lot of the stuff that we help people with. But the middle of America, especially the lower class people, they don't have the money to sit down and talk to somebody at an office, somebody wearing a suit, to learn all these things. And so a lot of people just get stuck, not because they don't want to implement change, but because they just don't know how.
They don't know how.
And so, like, talk about a little bit about that. How has that been, being able to sit down with people and show them things and give them options that they might have not even considered before?
Well, I think the opportunity is out there, and unfortunately, like growing up, and I guess not really growing up, but once I graduated from high school, I didn't have any idea to what the real world was like, when it come to bills and learning how to handle and manage a credit card. And so being able to teach people and show them that there's ways that you can manage your finances and do things differently than the way that I did starting out as an adult, I think will save some people from a little bit of heartache and frustration as they get older, and that starts to catch up to them a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're going to talk more about how that can catch up with them and then also impact their families, and how putting in some immediate change and some long-term change can change family legacies forever. We'll talk about that. But so basically what I want to do for the rest of this conversation is give you all, the listener, the viewer, some quick and easy access to Heather, somebody who's very smart and very talented in this field. And just going to ask Heather some questions. We're just going to go on a little journey. And my hope in our conversation is to give you all an opportunity to hear some things that maybe you need to hear when it comes to your finances, your family's finances, and maybe start hearing from Heather's wisdom and start making some change even today. But my big heart is that I want you to hear from somebody like Heather when it comes to a lot of this stuff, because I know, and I've been here before, that conversations around money and finance, they can be intimidating, especially if you're not in generational wealth, or your family doesn't spend a whole lot of time talking about money, and you don't have a financial advisor at your beck and call. For the everyday person, talking about money can be intimidating, can be kind of filled with a lot of shame and guilt, because maybe some bad decisions or some poor decisions were made in the past. It could just feel like a lot. So I know for a lot of people, because I've been here, the reason why we don't make the change is because of that fear, that intimidation, that shame, that guilt, all those emotions that maybe just say, you know what, I'll just figure it out. I'll just stay where I am, because at least where I am is familiar. Like, yeah, I can barely pay rent. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to retire. Yeah, if something were to happen to me, I don't know how my kids would continue to go to school and have a house and all these things. I don't know, but at least it's familiar. But I want you to hear from somebody like Heather, who I believe is super relational and approachable and all these things. And hopefully you'll walk away from this being like, you know what? Like, okay, like a lot of stuff she said, I can get down with. I could sit down with somebody like Heather and talk through these things. It's nothing to feel shameful or scared about. I just want you to hear from a real person, not, a suit or somebody online and things of that nature. So you ready to get into some questions?
I'm ready.
First question I want you to kind of walk us through is, I'm thinking through now the person who maybe is at the very beginning of like a new phase in life. Maybe for the context of our show, we talk a lot about single parent life. So maybe this is a person who just went through a divorce, or somebody who just lost a job, or somebody who's just like at the very beginning of like, I do not know what to do. I don't know even where to start. I don't even know where to begin. I know I need to start somewhere because life is still moving on, but I don't even know where to start and what to do when it comes to my money and dealing with my money. So you're talking to somebody who's just like, Heather, I don't even know where to start with this. What do I do? What are some first steps that somebody should take or know when it comes to a lot of this financial stuff?
Really looking and at your cash flow, like
Okay.
the money that comes in and the money that goes out. So if there's more money coming out than what you are bringing in, then you really need to sit down and really create yourself a budget. And by creating yourself a budget, you're going to know, I have this amount of money to spend. I shouldn't be spending over that, because if you're spending over that, it's probably either putting you in the negative or it's putting you into debt because you're using credit cards to fund what it is that you're short with on the money. And you don't want to put yourself in debt, because that's just an endless hole at that point. So
Exactly. But what I think is cool about your approach to walking through people through that part in particular is that when it comes to budgeting, I know a lot of people, again, intimidation or fear, a lot of times people will push off talking to somebody about that because maybe they're going to think the advisor, the professional, is going to tell them to, just live off of beans and go buy a junker car.
No.
And give up on your dreams and don't do anything fun. But I know your approach to a budget is not that, but I'll let you kind of piggyback off this, but like, you listen to people and hear their dreams and their aspirations and what they like to do, and you still figure out a way for them to live into some of those things, right?
Right. You still have to be able to live.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you to, go sell everything and live on beans and rice or ramen noodles for, no.
Yeah.
That's not it. It's just making sure that you're living in your means,
Okay.
that you're not going and spending $400 on clothes or $300 on your nails every month when you can't afford to do as such. Maybe go get your nails done once a month, and so you're still spending that time or that money on yourself, but you're not going in excess. If you go buy a pair of pants or just a shirt instead of the $400 shopping spree, So yes, but you want to do it within your means. You don't want to be doing it so that you're putting it on a credit card, that you're putting it, using your money that you have within your budget to do those things with.
Exactly. And I think in today's day and age where a lot of our money is tied to technology or our phones or cards or subscriptions, one cool thing is that we often sit down with people and just like, we're just going to like look through where your money's going. And then as we kind of say sometimes, like, see if there's like any holes in your boat. It's like, I'm not going to like sit and, tell you need to do this and that, but like, let's just see where your money is going. Because I think one of our trainers tells a story of like, he did that with somebody and figured out that this guy was spending like hundreds of dollars a month at the gas station on gas station food. And he didn't know until he sat down and like started writing it out. And he's like, well, there's a couple $100 right there to stop going and buying burritos every single day. But Yeah. So I think sometimes we just need somebody to help us see where the money's going, right?
Right. And we can just take a look. We can look at the money that comes in and the money that goes out. And if there's a big discrepancy in what comes in and what goes out, then it's leaking. Like you said, there's a hole in your boat. We need to plug that hole.
Yep.
So if you can plug that hole and figure out, where's your money leaking that you don't even realize it's coming from. You mentioned subscriptions. That is one thing that is huge because we don't think we have the subscriptions that we do until we sit down and you really start thinking, oh, and we're dumping money into these subscriptions. And sometimes there are subscriptions we don't even use any longer, right? That's just automatic and it just comes out. So.
Exactly. Okay. So that's good. So next, let's transition to talking to the person who's like, okay, we've sat down, we've done the budget. Like, okay, I got a handle on the money coming in, the money going out. That's cool. But I'm still living paycheck to paycheck for right now. I want to now take some of this information you gave me and start growing it for the future, or figuring out what to do in the future. So that way it's not always like this forever. So what are some things or some systems that people can start implementing to now going from, okay, we figured out what's the money's doing, but now how do we get the money working for the future?
Right. So you need to start with an emergency fund, right? So you're putting money in your savings account.
Okay.
So if you're having, once we stop that boat, right, the leak in the hole in the boat, so to speak, and you at the end of the month you have a little bit of extra money, it's not to run out and spend it, right? Because I have some extra money. If I have $200, maybe I'll put $100 in my savings so that I have an extra $100 to get me through till my next paycheck or whatever that looks like. But then I'm starting to build that emergency fund. And the very first focus is, if you have zero emergency fund, isn't to like start saving for, that 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. It's more so, build $1,000. Let's get $1,000 in your savings account. So if there's an emergency, you're not putting it on a credit card and you're not, having to do those things. You're able to pull from it. And because it's an emergency, you have it. It's liquid. It's in your hands. You can do something with it. And then we slowly, progressively build up. Okay, once you have 1,000, well, let's double it. Let's get 2,000. So just thinking, instead of big, that I need to save this huge amount of money to protect myself because of, emergencies, I can start small. And starting small is where you need to, because it's your mind. If you're starting small instead of big, your mind doesn't really like go into a little bit of shock because of you think that you need to be saving so much money.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really cool point. I think and we were talking about this before we were recording, I think the tricky thing for people, actually this will segue into our next talking point, but I think a tricky thing for people is that mindset of like, okay, the instant gratification versus like the long-term ability to set yourself up for success. So for example, when it comes to let's just say the savings account, building up an emergency fund, it takes a lot of discipline to say, okay, I have extra $100 coming in, or at least I found an extra $100 because Heather sat down and we worked through my spending. I found I was spending $100 on something that I didn't really need. So now I have this $100 here, but that instant gratification of like, oh, well, I can just go do something now with that $100 versus doing something it's not as sexy, not as flashy, but putting it into an emergency fund can be tricky. But I like your approach to it of like, okay, well, let's not get crazy and just say we need to dump a whole bunch of money in this, otherwise it's all or nothing. But like, let's just practically start doing something to where you're like telling yourself like, okay, small victory, small victory, small victory, and reprogramming your mind almost to be thinking long term, right? Is that a good approach to it?
Yes, absolutely. And if it's a problem for you to put it into your savings account where you have your regular checking account, then go to another bank. Open a savings account at another bank where you don't see that money sitting in your savings account. Think, oh, I have money I can spend, right? So if you put it into a different account, one you can't see, but your money's automatically going into it, then it's your mind's not seeing it and thinking, oh, I have money to spend. So, but also starting to build that and make it a habit.
So when it comes to that topic then, because a lot of and we won't get into like the specifics, strategies or anything like that. I don't want to get too into the weeds. But when it comes to a lot of the strategies that we really love to help people with, a lot of them are either long-term thinking type of stuff, or they're just thinking and preparing for the future. So like, for example, we help people just make sure they have proper protection in place for them and their families, just in case something were to happen. And I think specifically a lot about this for our audience when it comes to the single parent approach, because let's just say something were unfortunately to happen to you. Do you know what's going to happen with your kids? Like, who are they going to go with? Like, who's responding, like legally and court wise? Like, there's just a lot of stuff. But again, it's a lot of this long-term thinking. Oh, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to be here forever, or I'll just figure out retirement when I get there. I'm still young. I still got 30 something more years. And it can be tricky getting people to understand the value of that future or long-term thinking. So do you have any bits of wisdom when it comes to that mindset piece of like going from thinking, I don't know, I'll worry about that later, to like really seeing the importance of thinking through some of that stuff like right now?
Yeah, well, it's hard to think of right now, right? But, if you're a single parent and you're raising two kids, three kids, or even one kid, and you're their sole source, and if something were to happen to you, what would happen to your child? And that's sad to think about, and it's eye-opening to think about. But if you're protecting yourself, then you're protecting them as well, right? So proper protection being, go out and get yourself a life insurance policy. I hate to say life insurance because, it's people think, oh, it's taboo. We don't want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a new time, and we really need to be thinking, I want to protect my children. And to do that, and having that life insurance, it's helpful.
I agree. This episode is brought to you by me at Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development. Single parents, are you looking to take control of your career and financial future? Well, my finance firm is currently recruiting new agents with a business model similar to real estate. Here's how it works. Let me break it down. First, we'll get you connected with our brokerage, and then we'll help you get fully licensed to work in the financial industry. We fully train you to go out and help clients reach their financial goals and dreams. And something pretty awesome is that no past experience in this industry is required. We're just looking for people who are ready to make an amazing change right now, because I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of people out there who are a little anxious when it comes to money and the economy and tariffs and 401ks and retirement. And we just, as a firm, we're growing, we're expanding at a crazy rate because there's so many people out there who legit just need some good people to help them. And maybe one of those good people could be you. Reach out and let me know if you might be interested in learning more. I'd love to sit down and talk with you to see if this might be a good fit for you and your family. Yes, that's Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development, where change starts now. The next kind of like part that I want to bring up is the mindset of just being a person who can strive for wealth and who can believe that they're worthy of wealth. Because we call, in our business, we call it personal development, which is a lot of just building ourselves up as people, as leaders, and working on our own mindsets as entrepreneurs as we go out and help people. And a lot of what we talk about is the fact that, you really have to truly believe that you are worthy of whatever you're into. Because if you have, let's just say, I think I brought this up on the show before, but if you get $1 million just handed to you, if I handed you, listener, $1 million and said, here, Merry Christmas, here's your $1 million, and you don't have a mindset that matches that $1 million, you still have a I'm only worthy of $20,000 a year mindset. You could have $1 million in the bank, but what do you think's going to happen in a year or two to that money? Maybe you don't even know you're doing it, but subconsciously you're going to basically bring yourself back to a $20,000 a year lifestyle, because even though I gave you that $1 million, you didn't really believe that you belong there. And so we've talked about like the thermostat and stuff like that. So people will just blow it. That's what you hear stories. People get all this money and they blow it. And then next thing you know, they're living exactly the way that they did as kids. It's because mindset wise, they just didn't truly believe that they could be a $1 million lifestyle type of person. So I think about single parents and the idea of like, man, we just got to help people, single parents or whoever, go from surviving to thriving. And yes, a lot of this financial stuff we're talking about practically can help, but I think mindset wise, it's important for the listener to remember that they also need to do stuff mentally to get them to be in a place where they think and they know that they're worthy of financial success. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Right. And it is a mindset thing, right? We grow up thinking this is what my parents had, so this is what I should have.
Yep.
No, not thinking that I can have more, right? Just like speaking to your $1 million.
Yep.
If I was given $1 million, let's say 3 years ago, I probably would have done exactly what you just said, right? I would have spent it. It would have been gone. Knowing what I know now, that $1 million would now be turning into more than just $1 million, because I know that I'm capable of more. I know that I have the tools available to build more. But if you don't learn that, you don't have somebody to teach it to you, and you don't have that mindset change that I am capable and worthy of more, then you're not going to. It's just going to, you're going to spend it. It's going to disappear just as quick as you got it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I love so much about our firm and what we do. Our motto or our mission statement at our firm is no families left behind. So a lot of that means, yes, we're going to sit down and we're going to walk through all the steps of money and talk about interest and how stuff is taxed and all these different financial strategies and cool stuff. But at the end of the day, what we really love to do is just sit down and meet people where they are and talk to them about what's going on, like what's really going on, their goals, their dreams, their ambitions. And like we spend a good chunk of time just talking to people about their life. Like, tell me about your kids, tell me about your work. And where a lot of other firms will just sit down, talk about the money because they just want to, maybe get the commission. And I'm not saying like all other financial advisors, like they care, but like I just love that that's at the core of like who we are as an overall firm, is that we want to sit down and figure out who you are as people. That way, when we do all these cool strategies to start having you build some wealth, you keep it because you truly believe that you deserve it. Right.
Right. And you're working towards those goals and your dreams. One of my very first favorite things to do at the beginning is to pull those hopes and dreams, because people stop dreaming. They stop hoping. Somewhere in their life, something has affected them. So the dream stops.
Yeah.
So when you can sit down and have a conversation with somebody and they can start pulling those dreams out of you again, and you can start building those hopes up, and then you put them on paper so you can see them and visualize them. This was a dream I had when I was 25, and here I am not 25 anymore. and I can think, okay, that dream can be within my reach, maybe not when I wanted it, but it's still tangible. I can still look at it. I can see it. That's still a dream. And to be able to pull those out of people that don't have those hopes and dreams anymore because they've lost them somewhere is a big deal to me.
That's huge. I shared the story on our team call that we had the other day, but I went to my little brother's graduation last week, I think, and it was, cool, typical high school graduation. Somebody gives up and gives like a commencement speech and says, students, your new chapter is starting. You can go out and you can change the world and become chefs and astronauts and scientists and all the cool stuff. And I was sitting there listening to that, was texting my friend while I was listening to it, and I was like, man, this speech is kind of bumming me out because here I am 35 years old, and I heard the same speech or similar speech when I was, 18 or whenever I graduated. And here I am now, several over a decade later, and I didn't become an astronaut. I didn't become a business executive. I didn't cure cancer or anything like that. And she was just like encouraging me, being like, well, yeah, but you're doing a lot of other cool stuff. Like, look, you have an awesome podcast and you're in this amazing business and all this other good stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's true. That's right. And then I looked around, and then I was in the auditorium full of people my age or older. And I was just like, man, like, I wonder how many other people in this room are either thinking the same thing I just thought, or like maybe even rolling their eyes hearing that commencement speech of like, yeah, maybe some of you will go off to do those cool jobs, but more likely than not, what's going to happen, you got to pay the bills, you have a kid, you do this or that. And so you just got to take the job that gives you the paycheck, and you're in an office, and it's just the same thing every day until you retire. Like, but like this sense of like doom and gloom about the reality of life, because that's what happened to them. So for us to sit down with somebody 35, 40, 50, 60 years old and still ask them like, hey, like, what's your dream? Like, you're still here on earth, you're still drawing a breath, and that means you still can have the ability to dream and aspire for things. And I just love that that's what we help people do.
Yeah, I do too. It's just thinking, I'm made for something bigger, right? So thinking I I might be doing this and I enjoy what I'm doing, but in the back of your head thinking I was made to do something bigger. And whatever that is, I have to have that dream and be able to make it happen. So and I don't want that lost for other people, right?
Yeah. I agree. So next, I'm thinking through the person who's hearing this and be like, yeah, I think I really do need to sit down with somebody like a Heather, or just Heather in general, and talk through some of these things. So one, practically, well, I guess usually I say this for the end, but since we're talking about it, is what's the best practical way for somebody to reach out and maybe schedule a time to talk with you?
Well, I do have an email that they can email me at that I check regularly, and that's heatherjohnson.fs@gmail.com. They can also access me through you, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Like
through
I said,
the podcast or the links or
all actually, yeah, for sure. All the links and the emails for everything will just be in the description of this podcast episode. So you can get a hold of me. Our email is just the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. Because obviously, like I said, me and Heather were partners. So I'll just get you connected with her, or you can have her email. So that's just how you can do it if you want to set up a time. Especially during the summer, where she mentioned in her story, she's an educator, but we're on summer vacation right now. So she's going to have some free time, sit down and chat with folks. But now that they have that practical information, I just kind of want you to kind of, I guess, create some ease to the person who's still like, oh, I need to sit down and talk to Heather. I really do. But I don't know. It's scary. Like I'm nervous. This is just weird. I've never done anything like this before. Cause again, maybe I know I've kind of brought this up a couple of times, but I just want to make it clear, like we will sit down and talk with anybody, because our mission statement, no family left behind. So if you have $1 million in the bank and you have your own financial advisors or whatever, and you still want to talk to Heather, like we'd love to sit down and talk with you. We have clients who fit that description all the time. So I don't want to sound like I'm like poo-pooing that demographic. But for the most people in the world, they don't have access to a lot of that. So they've never sat down with the financial strategist before. So maybe they're still feeling those nerves. So can you kind of like just give like a overview of what it typically looks like for somebody to sit down and talk with you? That way, anybody who's still a little nervous will see it's not that bad. It's not scary. It's a good time. But what does a typical time with you look like?
Well, I'm not scary.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. Some of my fifth graders might say I'm kind of scary sometimes, but no, I'm not scary. You sit down and we mainly just sit down and have a conversation. We go over who we are as a company. our mission statement, different ways that the 3 rules of money, and then the different ways that we can help families build a plan that is, to them specifically. So, and then once we have that conversation, we can start building a plan for you, looking at all of the things that we mentioned before, the budgeting and the cash flow, and, what you're doing good already should be viewed as just as positive. So I've noticed walking through people's plans that they're doing things right as well. So to point those things out, just to know that, it's financing is hard. Adulting is hard. But we're doing things right too. So I think it's important to be able to have that conversation when we're doing that as well. And I'm pretty easy to have a conversation with, I think. So
I agree. So my last big question to go over, again, thinking through the context of the show, parents, maybe people with young kids, or maybe they're still kind of young themselves, and they're now realizing the importance of thinking through the future, preparing for the future. They get everything that we just talked about. Why, though, specifically is starting some of this stuff like today so important, especially when you have kids who you do maybe want to think through legacy stuff for or with, or yourself too, because retirement seems like it's so far away, but it can come quick, and we don't know what stuff's going to be there and available come retirement, for especially somebody like me 30 years from now. Who knows what stuff's going to look like? But for our kids, for our family, for our future, why is it so important for people to start today thinking through preparing for leaving a legacy to your family?
Well, I wish my parents had, the knowledge that I have now, so that when I was young, they could have set me up for my future, started putting money away from me because they knew the importance of it and knew the right places to put it so that it was compounding and growing for me. So when I, chose to go to college, or I chose to take a trip after my senior year, that I had that opportunity, that it wasn't something that was, going to break the bank because I wanted to take a trip. But, and they see their parents doing things the right way, and they learn, well, my mom did this, and I saw my mom or my dad put away money every month, and they did that to help me. And if I could do that now for my kids, I would. My kids are all grown now, but they are all starting to do that for themselves, where I didn't have that opportunity until just now. So if you can start young, we're doing things for our kids and their future so that they can have the financial education that they're not getting in school because we don't have time to teach it. So, but if your parents can teach you because your parents know, then you're in a win-win situation there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it's win-win because, like you said, one, they're learning that. So what they're doing, we talked a lot about mentality today. Like, they're forming that mentality of, one, like, I am worthy and deserving of being financially stable and having financial success myself. And two, they're learning how to do that. So that way, when they become adults, that mindset is it's there, it's in them. And so they don't have that poverty mindset anymore because you instilled that in them from a young age, or just whenever. Like, it's never too late to start working with your kids for that. But practically, just being able to set up stuff to where practically, financially, your kids are able to do things that they want to do with their life, and they're able to dream big, and you're still able to do the things that you want to do, and creating that legacy. One big thing one of our leaders in the business always says is that, think through the fact that in a couple generations, your great-great-grandkids or your great-great-great-grandkids, they're going to be around, but are they going to know who you are? Are they going to know your name? Are they going to, it's kind of a bleak reality, but he's like, are they going to even know who you are in the future? But he's like, think about some of the wealthy families that are pretty well known, like the Rockefellers. Like, do you think they know who their great-great-great-grandfather is? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because they worked to establish that family legacy. And again, it's the mentality of like, well, I'm not a billionaire like the Rockefellers. I don't have buildings in New York. Sure. But mentality-wise, you can do stuff right now to set up your kids, their kids, your great-great-grandkids to where maybe they may or may not know your name, but they're going to know and have the effects and feel the results of the legacy that you built for them. And that could be huge, right?
Right. Yeah. And teaching them to start saving young is the best time to start, because then they build a habit. And if you build a habit young, it usually sticks with you through adulthood. So
yeah, that's all. So I guess especially the single parents listening to this, or anybody who just feels like they're permanently stuck, like I just want you to hear from me, and then I'll let Heather echo this, or maybe she'll disagree. I don't think she's going to, but I just want you to hear from me that it's not too late. You are worthy of financial success and financial freedom, and retiring and spending some days on the beach with a margarita. Like, that sounds amazing to me. And I know that it's easy to think that as like a cool dream other people can achieve, but you're just going to be stuck surviving forever. No, you're worthy of more than that. You deserve more than that. And there's people like Heather or other people on our team who care about getting you to that beach with that margarita and who want to help. So just first know that you are worthy and deserving of all that stuff. And if you want to learn more about how to practically get there, please reach out. So do you agree with that or disagree?
Oh, I agree with that 100%. And when you're on the beach sipping your margarita, you can think of me and or invite me. I'll come with.
Oh, see, that's a good motivation. So this is why, when you sit down with Heather, she's going to do A+ work, because she wants you to be so successful that you invite her to enjoy margaritas on the beach. So see, it's a win-win for everybody.
Win-win.
It really, really is. Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you want to share with the people before we get out of here?
Just to, have that mindset that you are worthy of whatever it takes to get you to where you need to go, and not thinking that it's not possible. Just you're not there yet, that we will get you there.
Ooh, I love it. All right, everybody. And don't forget, I'm going to put all the links to get a hold of me or Heather or both in the description of the video. So just reach out. I think a big thing to kind of bring up, I don't know if we said this before, but all of the sessions that you can sit down and do with Heather are 100% free. So she's not going to charge you an arm or a leg just to sit down and talk. Like, you could just set up a time to talk, like no strings attached, right? You're just hanging, like you said,
an hour of your time for an hour of my time, and I'll probably buy you a coffee,
and then you'll get a coffee. So there you go. If you need some caffeine like me, just set up a time with Heather. There, at least you get the coffee. Yeah. But seriously,
and conversation.
And good conversation. Yeah. So don't let that of like, well, what's the catch? Like, how much is it? Just set up a time to talk with Heather, and she'll take care of you. So use all of the emails and links to do that. Other than that, that's going to get ready to do it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. Thank you again, Heather.
Yes, thank you, Anthony, for having me.
Yeah.
It's been a good time.
It's been a good time. Yeah. I agree. I hope you all had a good time as well. We'll see you next time. But for this episode, I'm Anthony. This is Heather. And you all out there, just stay beautiful. Bye.